So I'll call the meeting to order at 7:06. Dave Horvath has the flag. So if you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America,
The Republic.
the republic
Stands
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
indivisible,
under God,
with liberty and
indivisible.
justice.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. So public input, none. Correspondence, nothing that's not attached to all of our meeting reports. And so then meeting minutes. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 8, 2021.
Second it.
Dave Horvath seconds. Anybody have any updates, changes? No. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And does anybody need to abstain? Nope. I just got a text back from Bob. He is not able to join us. So Dave, hopefully you can hang in for now. We'll see if we can get through some stuff.
Yeah, get to a point where you don't need a vote.
All right, well, we do have to vote on some things towards the later part. So, so construction progress and schedule update. We didn't get a written report from Rizzo. And you've got something for us, please?
Yeah, I can go through the schedule, and the gentleman's pulling it up. So I'll be updating this, and we have the soccer field was completed and seeded. Johnson chiller sunscreen was completed. We have a little bit left to do with the Rockwell one. We repaired the concrete sidewalk at Johnson. Soccer field fence was done with the field. The punch lists are pretty close to being completed. We're going to have people out there now that school's out tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. The bus loop at Rockwell was paved. The access road and paving completed at Johnson. The admin graphic is, they're coming tomorrow morning to do that at Johnson. The boiler room supports were done today. The benches were installed last Friday. Those were completed at Johnson. We're looking to get the date for the water main cap this week from the water company. Basketball hoop that's missing over at Rockwell is still missing, and they gave us a date at the end of the month. We're not sure if that's going to work or not. The stamped pavement will be done by the end of the month. But that's around the bus at Johnson. And electrical change orders. There's a few that we're going to get started on with Ferguson, for Rockwell and over at Johnson. The repairs to the epoxy flooring, it was a 2-day process. He's going to come Thursday and Friday to finish that at Johnson. And then the bollard caps are middle of July. That's what they're telling us. And the platform railing is early part of August. And that's for Johnson. And that's it for the update.
So, that platform railing, is that something that, I mean, I know we talked about it last time, so it's more of a, they've got to get it manufactured, and that's why it's going to take so long?
Yes, it has to be fabricated, then sent out to the galvanizer.
Have they, field checked all their measurements and all, so we know when it gets here, it's correct?
Yes,
Okay. And the electrical change order, work, does that include, like, last time you talked about the light circuits in the admin area of Rockwell? And whether it was supposed to be on normal power or not, and then there was some back and forth on that. Did that get resolved?
yes, they did it per sketch, which, that was correct. They were fed from normal power and standby power. And, so that was completed. And, yeah, they're just working on, there's gonna be a cold open at Rockwell, an exit sign moved upstairs, and, I think that's it for Rockwell. He's got a few other things over at Johnson.
And on the, well, so the graphic at Johnson, you said they're gonna be here. So they've remanufactured it or and it's here, it's coming and they're gonna go and install it. Is that where we are with it?
Yeah, that's correct. They've prepped it. They removed the old one, prepped it, and they're ready to install the new one tomorrow.
Okay, great. A couple other questions that I have. So the soccer field you said was all done and it's been seeded, yet I had a question from Eileen Girl, Park Director, about the Park and Rec Director, about the compaction of the field and it being compacted too tightly, so to speak.
Well, they did scarify it down 12 inches, and they put 6 inches of topsoil, and it's probably a moisture issue where it needs to have more water put on it. And we talked to them about spraying the field and keeping it watered so the grass will grow, and that'll help.
So did they do all that after there was concern about the compaction of the field?
It's just the drying out. Once the field starts getting moisture, or if it gets irrigated, that won't continue to happen.
So what I'm asking though is, did they scarify it and put topsoil on and all that after there was concerns expressed about how compacted the field was?
No, that was how they did the field.
Okay.
The thought was if it felt like it was over compacted, then maybe they didn't put the field together right, but they did. They did all the steps that were necessary.
We have a terrible connection. I'm on an island and I'm busy.
Right, so are you,
Call again another time.
thank you, Kathy. So has it been checked to make sure, like, does anybody checked it to say, you're saying it was put together the way it was designed, correct?
Yes, and we sent an email to Joe,
Okay,
and he responded that, he believed that it was constructed properly. We haven't had anybody from McBroom look at it, but that's what we suggested. If he comes, we'll meet with them and we'll go over it.
right, if there's still complaints about it, yeah, okay. Then the Rockwell pipe supports that you said those are complete, have they been like inspected by whoever has to do that? And
They have not. They were there putting them up today, so I have to just make sure that they completed today. I'll do that tomorrow, and then call for the inspection.
okay. So, and the Rockwell roof, did that get certified, warranted?
We're still waiting for the JM warranty. He has been checking on it, and we've been checking with him on it. because we'd like to get that
So
finalized.
who does that?
That's a young roofing. We'll have to get that from the manufacturer.
So are they the ones that call out to do the? Who calls them to get out? Who does that? You or Young Developers?
I just, young developers set up all of the inspections for his inspection for the final.
Okay,
We just set up like the preliminary walkthroughs during construction.
so you have to be after Young Developers to get their part done? Is that what needs to happen?
No, once Young gets their warranty, that's it. The roof is under warranty and we're all set.
Okay. But it hasn't been done yet.
No, we don't have it yet.
Is it in process?
Yes, he says he's just waiting on it from the roofing manufacturer.
Okay.
Hey, Ken, on the landscape punch list, I saw some of the items, I was over probably last weekend. Some of the items were taken care of, and it still looks like there's quite a few items on Malone McBroom's punch list that the landscaper still had to accomplish. I wasn't over today or whatever, or even, I guess I was over maybe middle of next week, so I don't know how that's going.
He basically did a lot of the infill at the side curbs where it sunk, and fixed up the bank over at Johnson where they did the brush cutting up top. There's a couple trees that are on the list that he has to replace. And then, you know, just the question on the compaction of the grass at Johnson.
Yeah, I still think there was quite a few items. I know there was last week that still hadn't been accomplished. So, you know, as far as rocks and different things, even around Rockwell School, if you could just check with them again and maybe get Malone and McBroom out again to, you know, recheck it.
Okay.
So are the landscapers still giving you pushback on regrading and reseeding?
We've got issues with the landscaper on the tree replacement and on specifically the compacted material, where it's his opinion that the students were allowed to run on it, so they compacted the soil. So those are probably the two biggest items we have with him at this point.
Okay, and is that mostly at Rockwell, or?
That and he doesn't think he owned any topsoil, but yeah, the trees, I believe, Ken, are just at Johnson. I don't know that he has any Rockwell trees to replace.
No, Johnson, he had two trees that he had to straighten out by digging down and you know, just leaning them over so they're straight.
But the grass growing, the compaction and all that, is that both at Johnson and Rockwell, or is that at, well, with the,
It was for Johnson.
okay, so what about at Rockwell where there was all that?
The front slope was an issue on the punch list, and then the, I don't know if the back slope, I know.
You didn't have the compaction issue at Rockwell though, Ken. You have that, that's just at Johnson where.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right, but at Rockwell, we still had the, you know, it's gullies and both on the back steep
Yeah.
slope and the front slope going down to, going down towards Whittlesey. And is that also still an issue with them thinking they don't own the having to spread some topsoil situation?
Well, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong. He had dressed up the back of Rockwell. We could take a look if we're still seeing rocks and things in there. We'll take a look at that. It really should be just that front playground area that's any issue, you know, with him.
Okay,
Hey, Jim, I think that area where you come in on the bus loop area, either side of the road, primarily on the left side on the, where the fences were. I don't think that, the last time I was up there last week, it still hadn't been addressed. So
Okay.
it might have been since, but, I know.
No, he hasn't, Ken, he hasn't been out there. He hasn't been out there this week, so we'll have to get on him for that.
And I know some of the areas where the bottom, the toe of the slope, where they either should be crushed stone or topsoil. I know that Malone and McBroom had quite a bit of items along those that had to be dressed up.
He did bring in stone and
Okay, good.
corrected that stone issue on both projects.
Okay, good, Ken.
and then, and I know the paving was done in the access road, but what did we find out? Did we do any more exploration of the conduit that was running out to the scoreboard? Well, not from the dugout to the scoreboard, but from the building to the dugout that powered that scoreboard. Did that get resolved, or is it just leave under the road and we're waiting to figure out how to run it?
Sleeves were put under the road for that, only for the irrigation.
Okay, so the existing conduit that was running, that already ran, which somebody had dug up last month, was that traced back, and is that going to be used, or are we just putting a whole new something in there?
No, we're going right directly to the dugout on the first base side, and quasi box in the ground there. That's where we're going to.
Which is where it was before. That's where it ran before. So are you using the old conduit, or are you putting all new stuff in?
We're putting all new for the sketch. They didn't want to use any of the old stuff.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Ken or Jim at this point? So the schedule here, it looks like you're going to be complete by mid-August at the latest?
Just for those, yeah, those last items that we're waiting on, yes.
Right, but the rest of it looks like it might be done mid-July,
Correct.
everything else.
Mhm.
Right, and the punch list, so are they gonna be, how are we looking at, I mean, we don't have a whole punch list to look at, but.
Well, so we got an updated punch list today. I did put it up on the shared drive. I didn't distribute it. So there are updated punch lists to see what the small amount of items are at each school that are left.
Okay, and are there dates on them too, so we can check them out?
Dates for when they're going to be completed?
Yes.
No.
No, okay,
Probably not.
Nancy,
yeah.
I think you've got a quorum without me now.
Let me ask a few questions though, okay, first, because I was gonna do that as soon as we finished with this section.
Okay.
So John Perna, I see that you've joined us. Are you able to stay on with us?
Yes.
Okay, good. So,
Thank
and
you,
everybody
John.
else, David Horvath, John Menti, Roy, you're all able to stay on for the rest of the meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. I guess, Dave Olson, you can,
Thanks, Dave.
thank you, Dave.
Very good. Thank you.
Have a great time, David.
Especially thanks to John Perna.
Hey, Dave, will you sign my overtime sheet? Or will Menti?
Roy, if I turned the computer around, you could look out over the bay.
You got it, Perna, no problem, buddy.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so does anybody have any other questions for Ken or Jim on, this projected, the list and the projected schedule? And we were talking about punch lists. So Ken or Jim, do you have some sort of time frame that you can give us for getting your punch list items completed?
Yeah, we'll go through and put dates. Some of the items are contested, or, we'll send back the responses that we have, but on the items that we need to finish, we'll get dates for those. There are some dates on some of the items that we submitted, so we'll get dates on the other open items.
I guess I was just looking, you put this together and you updated it. So I'm wondering look at it, what you're thinking about as far as time. Is it going to be done in a week? Is it going to be done in a month?
The 3 items on this page are going to be done this
week. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's some other things that are these things that are more like disputed, or you're still kind of in discussion about them?
Yeah, it was just with school in session, it was hard to get the masonry contractor back in the gym, but we'll get him in there and finish that up. And that a lot for that.
Okay.
The conduit at the front of the school. No, we have the on the exposed walls, exposed conduit on the walls. We have a response from Ferguson for that. And then just some minor stuff there that we'll take care of. We'll put dates on those.
And then same with Rockwell. Is there a general idea of when? I mean, you've got dates on some of them, but with anything else, are there some ideas of timeframes?
Yeah, I'll get dates on all of the items done at Rockwell.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, comments, or whatever for Ken or on the construction and schedule? And I don't know if Carolyn has any input on any of it either. Other than what we already talked about. I didn't know if there was anything else that you thought needed to be brought up. Okay. Okay, so technology, I hear we're like thinking about we're done with technology.
Nancy, I had one question though. It's because Joe Collada's on the line too. So is there a compaction test that they could do so that we know we're done with the field, or is that part of what we should do?
You have to look into the spec and check with Malone and Maroon to see if that's required.
Okay.
Typically, I would say yes, that some kind of sieve test would be required to check the soil compaction.
Okay. Because if it's right, then we're done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said earlier, it was brought up a couple different times, not just by Eileen Earl, but a few other people about the field being too hard for running around playing soccer and falling down. So if there's a concern, we may need to figure out a way to allay people's fears. Okay, technology.
So yes, technology is 99.9% done. The last thing that we were waiting for was that pandemic button in terms of the controls at the 2 schools to shift the settings from COVID to non-COVID. I understand from Action Air that it was completed. I was, Bob had been on the call today. We would have asked whether he's in fact utilized that. I think they were switching back and forth to do the commissioning of the air conditioning system, but I'll circle back with Bob and make sure that it's functioning the way he thought, that it was intended. We did, in reviewing the punch list for technology, realize there's a couple of credits that we're pursuing, some work that was not done on the security side that was not necessary to be done. There were some duplications in the specifications, so I'm pursuing a credit with ESC and also having a call with them tomorrow to go over their invoicing. They still We've paid them in full on Johnson, but they still have to, they still owe us invoices for the work at Rockwell, which kind of followed behind. So, but the work itself is complete.
Good.
And there hasn't been any, I don't know, questions or outstanding stuff from either staff, something's not working or any of that. It's all been,
Yeah, nothing that I think that wasn't actively being resolved or wasn't on the school side to figure out. So the last I touched base with David Airy a couple weeks ago, there were no issues that either ESC wasn't responding to. They may be going back and forth themselves, but they did not, IT doesn't feel that there are any outstanding issues.
okay, great. So we might be done with technology.
With
Yes.
some, yeah.
Yes, good, good. Actually, I just came up with or I thought about something I had written down in my notes that I wanted to ask about when we were going over the construction progress and schedule. Where are we with the CO? Has there been any more progress moving forward with some of the items that either Chris Baldwin or Tom Galliford or anyone else has had?
Yes, I think that there were a few issues that Chris had. One was the boiler room truss reinforcement, which was done today and needs to get inspected. There's some outlets on the roof, stanchions, rooftop units that need to be replaced. We've got replacement outlets from the manufacturer, and so we're working with Ferguson to get those installed. And so there's 17 of them, and so that was another item that has to get done. The fire marshal had a couple of the change order items, the exit sign at Rockwell, and part of that work has been done already. And then there's the mag hold open, and I talked to Ferguson today about getting those done, and he's gonna give me a call back in the morning to talk about scheduling. He's probably gonna get it done this week, but I don't have confirmation yet on that.
And then I think it was maybe last month, we talked about if we needed to get planning and zoning or Beth Cavagna out to do any, did she go out and do any walk around? Check to see if there might be outstanding issues with the site, with zoning, or haven't we done that yet?
Didn't call zoning, because I thought zoning was gonna have to have the A2 survey or some sign off from Malone and McBroom first. I did contact Laura Vasile and told her that everything was set for her to come out and inspect. The dumpster pad enclosures were one of her items. So, all of those are ready for her. And she said she'll get back to me when she's gonna come out.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand with planning and zoning, there has to be a survey completed by Malone and McBroom before? Is there like a as-built kind of something that has to happen, or is it what's?
They'd like to have the sign off on the stormwater.
Stormwater, okay. So who does the sign off? Is that come from the designers, from the engineers?
That's my understanding.
So they would have to go out there and, or have they been checking all along to make sure it was installed properly? It's like works every time we have rain, there's a puddle in there if there's a lot of rain, so it works.
Well, Joe, correct me if I'm incorrect. So Malone and McBroom has been out, but they were also waiting for the as-built civil drawings, which I just saw came through. That submittal just went through today.
Right.
So I would think that at this point, Malone and McBroom should have everything that they need in order to do their final review, in order to write the certification letter that Beth is waiting for. So we'll, between the three of us, follow up on that the rest of this week and make sure that or Joe, just make sure that Malone and McBroom does have what they need and get a date by which they'll submit the letter.
Yeah, I'll call Dave Dixon first thing in the morning and follow up on some of
Yeah.
these items. For the A2 survey, if that's required, Malone McBroom updated the survey, but they were direct to Bethel on that. They didn't do that through us. So I'll mention that to him as well and maybe have him call you, Geraldine.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. If that is a requirement, then yeah, let's straighten that out.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and it's not just hanging out there and everybody thinks it's getting done. So, okay, good. So Ken, just in going through the couple of things we were asking about with the CO, so we still have a TCO, obviously, but there are some still outstanding things that you need to correct either per Chris Baldwin or Tom Galliford to move forward in getting a CO.
Correct.
Well, and Chris might also wait until August when that railing is installed at Johnson, because that was one of his, building code issues. So I think the sooner rather than later, obviously, would be great, but I think that we should guarantee that we can get a CO before school starts again next year. So
Definitely. So we just keep checking on all those things and make sure everything, I mean, obviously that railing seems like it's last on the list as far as things that may be holding up a CO. So we want to keep moving everything else forward. So that is the last thing, we get it done and then we can, because obviously we're not going to get a CO unless we have sign-offs from all the other departments. So that Laura's coming out to check on things too. Okay, the boiler room. I know there was an email or two and hopefully Malcolm is getting the answers to his questions because Geraldine gave him a whole lot of information. What do we got, John?
So for everybody's benefit, about a little over a week ago, I got an email back from Malcolm Beeler from the firm that's taking care of the PCB sampling. He collected 25 samples of the boiler room. 23 samples came back non-detect. The 2 samples that did come back with any type of readings came back at 0.2 milligrams per kilogram, which is about 5 times under the legal requirement for reporting. So he asked for a couple more bits of information and details. So he's compiling basically a closeout letter to both the EPA and state DEP to say it's done. Which would, if this happens, that means there's no further action needed. It would be that 70,000 we have encumbered for could go back into contingency, and the school systems wouldn't have to do any yearly wipe sampling.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah, so it like he said in his email, he said to me, he goes, I've never seen anything like this before. He goes, it's amazing.
So where did the tests come from initially that showed?
The material that came out of the loading dock and that room in front of the boiler room had the same paint.
Right.
Well, that same color paint.
And those floors were demolished, correct? Because they didn't have anything sitting on them. So we demolished those, poured new concrete.
Right.
Didn't have to do anything more.
Right.
It was that red paint that was, because those of us who have gone in the boiler room have seen it, it's there. But that paint was tested and core samples and everything.
Yeah.
And
he conducted all the sampling according to the EPA requirements. They do depth samplings at surface 1 inch and I believe 3 inch.
To see how deep it,
yeah.
Okay. So
and
that,
he took pictures of all the sampling locations as part of his report.
right.
The proof, yeah.
So all of the other, the manifests and stuff they were asking for all the other rooms, are they gonna, did you have to give that you gave that, and is he gonna use that at all, or how's?
Well, yeah, they're requesting some information, so he's gonna go through it and disseminate it and just find out what's needed and send it over. So hopefully by our next meeting, we should have at least a verbal confirmation of what the status is. But it sounds like it's going in a very positive direction.
That'd be good.
So something positive happened with Rockwell.
Other than that, it looks great, but.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, it seems like anything that could go bad
I
happened.
know. Everything you touch has something wrong with it, yeah. So, and all the manifests and things they were asking for, I think Geraldine was thinking that they probably were asking for way too much, but you kind of got to give it to them, I guess.
Yeah, he's gonna go through it, and he's been in this circus before, so he knows what they need and want, and he's gonna provide it. And Geraldine, thank you very much for that help. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry it was a little late. Some other
That's
things
okay.
came up, but yeah, I mean, the information is there, so if they need something else, we'll dig it up.
Yeah, right now, I haven't heard anything, so I look at good news. No news is good news.
Yeah. Well, and all that stuff's got to be kept on file because who knows, somewhere down the line, someone may say, oh, how do we know that you did the testing? Or how do we know that it was?
Yeah, that's all going to be put into a report to EPA, and we'll get a copy of all of that. His report and the final resolution from the regulatory agencies.
Yeah. And so instead of having to keep that RAP on file and then proof of the remediation that was done, we'll probably just have to keep the report on file saying nothing further was needed if they come up with. Okay.
Beautiful. So that's good news.
Yay. Woo. All right. Keep us posted. Federal tax credits. We haven't, and we don't have anything new on that yet. We should do something with that really soon. So we'll have to have a little subcommittee meeting and work on that. Because I know it's during this tax year, but I don't think we want to wait too much longer and let it just kind of slip through the cracks. We should come up with some sort of, and again, as we've said, since we're getting to the end of the project, I think anyone else who wanted to jump in on that would have already done that. So hopefully a update at the next meeting. Federal tax credits budget review. Budget review. Who?
Budget review. So yes, so we are winding down and getting closer and closer to the end. So on the individual budget for Johnson, we are billed out to about 91% of the total project cost and 94% completion on construction. And owner contingency hovers at $1,378,700 on Johnson. And at Rockwell, similarly, 92% of the total project cost has been invoiced and 94% of construction as well. And again, we're kind of holding at that about $550,000 in the red on the contingency. And so the combined analysis looks like this at this point. So we've added, based on some interim conversations and some things that have come up, we've added a couple of sections to this contingency use tabulation. Tonight, the typical section on PCOs, tonight we do not have any new PCOs to consider. Each school has one PCO sitting there that is yet to sort of been satisfied with additional information. And then in the section that says PCOs expected, we do know that there are a couple of things out there that still have not been submitted on. At Rockwell, there's some additions to the chiller screen assembly, and at Johnson, we have the sleeves under the drive, the added concrete pad for the portable bleachers. And we also know that a roof ladder is being added at Johnson to access one of the roof sections. And there's the possibility, although since DSC has not presented us with an invoice yet, I'm not sure this is going to be real. They did some work on ADA door controls at the new vestibule at Johnson. That may be less likely. So we do know there's a few things out there still to receive PCOs on. The section that we did add to this analysis, though, is this GMP adjustment issue. I'm throwing it in here just as a point of information, and I also circulated some early information on this with the documents that went to the commission members. Just briefly, as you recall, at the very beginning of the project, the apparent low bidders for the roofing work at each school was the same contractor, Imperial, I think it was Imperial Roofing, withdrew their bid after the GMP had been presented and approved by the building committee, and also after the GMP had been signed by the first selectman. So at the time, we had Rizzo take the difference in the contract amount. So at Rockwell's contract for roofing increased just about $131,000, and at Rockwell, the contract for roofing increased $193,600. We had them take that from the construction contingency and move forward. At this point, both, you do see below, and the very last line, as is typical, that there is some money left in the construction contingency for each school. However, in conversation with Jim and Ken, we know that they are negotiating internally a fair number of change orders that are not rising to the level of the owner needing to consider, but change orders with subcontractors that would normally have come out of their construction contingency at this point. And the amounts that they are negotiating, the exposure that they're seeing to this change order work exceeds the amount of construction contingency that they have left. So the question of, well, what about this construction contingency that we reduced at the beginning of the project in order to accommodate the higher roofing costs? Should those contingency amounts or some part of those contingency amounts be restored back to the GMP contingency? We don't really have a formal proposal on that. I just wanted to put that information out there and also begin to track that contingency restoration as part of this contingency use spreadsheet. So Nancy, I don't know if you want to talk about that and any more.
Right. Yeah, so we did, this was something, and you know, we're looking back, Geraldine did circulate that item that came from Rizzo back in 2019 when we were looking at the whole thing. So she did it with the documents that went out on Friday. So we hopefully took a look at that. So if you remember having this conversation, this was again, as you remember, after the GMP was arrived at, the final amount for each school, and accepted by the Public Site and Building Commission, and then also signed by First Selectman, the low bidder, Imperial, and I believe they had already gone through their scope review, pulled out with the excuses that they gave. And it was the second low bidder and third low bidder at one school. One school was the second low bidder. The other one person they pulled out was the third low bidder. And we also had discussion at that time. I think Ken, I don't know if you remember, Jim, I don't know if you were on at that point. Discussion of going after them, going after Imperial and their bid bond to see, obviously would only be a percentage of what the difference would be. But we were told, and I remember sitting in a meeting, I think it was maybe Bob Trippy, saying that they'd look into it, but then we never went any further with it. So I don't know, Ken or Jim, if you...
Yeah, we did, and they claimed the math error, and usually all it takes for them not to get their bond pulled because they're able to show that they had an error in their bid.
So how much do we have left, you know, Ken or Jim, as far as what are you looking at as far as items that you have left as far as construction contingency left? Because you had what, the 130,000 on the Rockwell and the 190 per se, and what are you showing? 149 and 68,000 Rockwell and Johnson left. So what additional items, on the items that you have, I guess what you're still negotiating them. So the ballpark, what is that number?
So what we did was we put together a spreadsheet of all the closeouts and what were some of the exposures.
Yeah.
And, looked at what the sub was initially looking for, looking at, placing in there what we had formally rejected and have good documentation on what we've rejected. And then did a column of a conservative estimate of what we think, where you might end up with some of this stuff. And if you look at the total between the two, the 324, I think the exposure is about 260, 270, something like that. That would be our conservative exposure to that 324 number, if you look at it in total.
Okay. Yeah,
Cool, you're saying.
I'm just trying to get a general ballpark of what.
Yeah, and that's what we tried to do with that spreadsheet, was kind of lay everything out. And, obviously we'll go through and we'll close them out one by one. Some will be a little more difficult than others, but
Yeah.
took a shot at trying to at least quantify what the risks are.
Okay.
Was that spreadsheet was shared with us at the last meeting? Or it wasn't because it wasn't complete, or we didn't get it soon enough?
No, we did not share the detail on those change orders that Riz is still working on.
Because you're still working on it.
Right. But you're showing what's left now is what, like the 149 or 150 and 68 is what's left.
I don't know if that's true. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
those numbers came from.
I mean, there
the
might,
spreadsheet.
yeah, that's the thing that, I don't know, because there might be some blended numbers in with that too, so I'm not too sure.
The simplest way I can describe it is that of that 324, there's an exposure there of about $270,000.
Okay, good.
Okay, and that's both schools combined, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So going back to the individual school budgets, Geraldine, question that I've asked before, I'll ask it again. Are there, that would affect this kind of overall cash flow kind of situation? Are there line items in each individual budget that can be moved up into contingency because we're definitely not going to spend that money? Or are you still holding some in some places because it may come up to be something?
No, we pretty much know where the invoices are going to come in at this point. So under that, towards the bottom where we have potential reductions in budget line items, I'm already assuming that this 26,000 that was from the balance of the utility line items is going to come back in. I've already pushed that into the analysis. When I talked about Kozlowski last week, he was going to put together the actual costs for that other line item, the town bond costs, their interim financing costs, and he was going to confirm the amount that was spent on builder's risk insurance.
Yeah.
So at that point, there may be some balances also in those line items that would roll up. I just don't know what they are yet, and I suspect that they're small, 30,000, 40,000. I think he was indicating that a lot of the bonds, the short-term notes, the premium on the short-term notes were paid for by bond premiums that they were receiving back on other, there was some balance there of some of these line item costs. So I think that there may be some small credits on some of those line items, but I don't have that information yet, but we should have it soon.
Okay. And then anything else would be just small bits here and there that probably wouldn't be significant enough to be working on.
It's all real money though. So we're still carrying the 68,000 for the boiler room floor abatement. If it does turn out that there is no further action needed, that small amount, rolls back up into contingency. So if we can away at enough of these items. And even if we don't, my balance right now of the projected owner contingency at completion is about 156,400. So even if all of these numbers were expended, we're still coming in under budget. Of course, not as far under budget as we had been tracking for a while, or not as much as we had hoped. You know, I guess in my mind, I think you said the same thing. I was kind of thinking $500,000 under budget would be great, right, at the end of this project. And so we're not quite there yet, but maybe with some of these numbers rolling up, we'll be pretty close.
Right.
Good. Any questions on any of this for Geraldine?
So I'm assuming what, in a couple of weeks, probably Jim and Ken will have a better handle on some of these numbers per se, so that we can start zooming in on the final.
Yeah, I think the approach will be, Roy's trying to pick some of that low hanging fruit, see who we can get closed out that we're carrying as so we can get actual numbers on them. Some of them are going to be more difficult. You know, the landscaper is probably the biggest exposure that we're showing. At the end of the day, you know, who knows where he will be, but you know, the Fergusons, the Actionaires, be a little more difficult to close out, but there's no reason we can't start to pick off some of the smaller items that we should be able to at least get an exact number of what we're settling for.
That sounds good. Yep. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And Terry, what do you have?
Yeah, Roy, you were also doing a little follow-up on some other landscape items.
Yes, I just got a plan today, Terry. Okay.
Okay,
so
great.
I'm going to get something out to you probably tomorrow's email or Thursdays. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
I have potential layouts of what we're
Okay.
doing. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have any change orders to look at, or is there anything we need to look at and kind of?
We do not. Nope, there are none this period, and hopefully we can clean up some of the change orders that we know are coming to the owner. Hopefully we can get those together for the next meeting and be done with that as well.
Good.
Professional services, additional service requests. So we just received a new one, or two actually, one for each school from STV DPM. And those were circulated with the documents Geraldine sent out on Friday. So we're taking a look at these right now. I hope everyone had a chance to review. I actually have at least one question that I came up with.
Do you want to just question, or do you want me to launch into some sort of explanation?
So why don't you do the explanation, because you had emailed me when you said you were going to send this around. So I think it would be for everyone to know a little bit of an update, because I also had, there's a little update too. I had received original copies. They were obviously mailed because they're folded, invoices from STV for the month of May, which weren't part of the invoices that were sent out, because Geraldine was waiting on that, because it's invoiced to the actual expenses. But since their not to exceed amount was exceeded, it's actually invoiced, the invoice is actually less than what it really should be. So we're hanging on to that. Geraldine will explain all that to us right now.
Yeah, so what I have up on the screen is, and we have obviously this matrix for each project. This one's for Johnson School. You can see that on our last contractual ad, this is how we had laid out the assumption on the time to be spent and the time that the project would take to come to closure. The two areas where we've really exceeded the timeline, and then of course the hours that STV has spent, were in this construction closeout period and then a project closeout period. So this additional phase 3 construction closeout at the time was the actual ending of construction work and potentially the ending, but, being substantially complete with all of the project paperwork and be substantially complete with project construction. At the time that this was put together in, we put it together in January, it was approved by the building committee in February. We thought construction would be substantially complete by the beginning of April. I think construction is substantially complete at this point now, so almost the end of June. And originally we had considered using April, May, June, those 3 months to close out the project, which is the work that we do post-construction, the filing of paperwork with the state, closing out the invoice accounts and, all the paperwork that the town needs to close it out. Making sure that the CO is complete and filed, just a lot of that project closeout that happens after construction. So those are really the two time periods that have been extended now, again, for us. So I include that original matrix just for information on both of these. What I did on these change orders that is a little different than previously is I actually laid out all the work that I think I still have to do with state and, with change orders, with construction monitoring, with, reviewing applications for payment, lien waivers, certified payrolls, the release of the bonds eventually. I'm assuming that we will continue to attend and staff building committee meetings into September. There is one table that needs to be delivered on FF&E, but we are still closing out invoicing on technology. And then again, the state required filings and actually closing out the project paperwork so that the town has a package that can be audited eventually. So what I'm seeing now in terms of timeline for that is, as I said, extended construction closeout to right about now or next week. And then an extended phase 5 of project closeout that goes July, August, and into September. And then hopefully mid-September we'll be ready to be totally closed out with the project. And I have allowed for an allowance of like 20 hours, 10 hours on each project that'll just sit in a bank someplace. And when the eventual state audit happens, if you need me, when you need me, we'll be able to jump back in and help out at that point. But right now, what we're looking at is for the project to really be complete in terms of our services by mid-September. And I will just say, in terms of this previous fee matrix, in this time period, this additional phase, the phase 3 construction closeout, obviously, we did have hours allotted at each school. When I calculated the cost of this extended closeout, I backed out those other hours. So we did spend the hours that were in the original contract. We just spent them on the construction closeout portion. And I netted out, that the additional hours that were spent over those 3 months for Johnson were 37 hours. And I think on Rockwell it was like 11 hours when I netted out that money. So that's how we came up with the amounts. It's $25,650 at Johnson, and it is another $12,350 at Rockwell. And this is my proposal to get us to 2 and just past the first meeting in September, and hopefully Vinny with all the work.
So, is this just you, or you've got some other your backup people doing some stuff too, or is it more you?
No, this is just going to be me, because I think the bulk of this work is to continue to monitor, the requisition, the construction closeout, and then the state filing, which is all the stuff that I do anyway. So this is just me.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, there's backup, but the fee is based on my continuing on this project for the next 3 months.
Okay.
And I also want to point out, as I'm looking at this not to exceed, of course, these are our estimates of hours. We will not exceed these hours, but I'm only going to bill as many hours as I end up spending. So if the process is streamlined going through the summer, reviewing all these documents, compiling the updates, then obviously we'll bill less if we spend less time. But it comes out to about 8 hours a week on Johnson and about 4 hours on Rockwell is what my projection is.
Okay. So, in looking at the different phases that you put together initially back in January, you were looking at pretty much being closed out by now. So,
Yeah,
in having to look at the closeout part of it, you actually haven't even jumped fully into that. It's still doing, or at least up till maybe about now, maybe till the end of the month, doing construction administration. Pretty much.
correct. Pretty much.
So now your proposal says at the top, this proposal was submitted to the Public Site and Building Commission on January 12, 2021.
Yeah, that's a cut and paste error. So that January 12th date is going to be June 22nd. And if you approve it tonight, that blank date will also be June 22nd. So that is my mistake, that date.
So you'll have to change all that part.
Right. If you hadn't caught it, I was going to tell you after the meeting, I'm going to change the paperwork, don't sign anything, you know? So.
Okay, is there, in reviewing any of this, does anybody else see anything they have questions on? Or any things that need to be maybe corrected, typos, whatever?
Make a motion to approve the 12,350 for Rockwell.
Second it.
It was John Menti seconding.
John Perna.
Oh, John Perna, sorry. I can't see your lips moving. So with a motion and second on Rockwell, and we've had pretty much a whole lot of discussion, but if there's any other questions or discussion needed right now, let's do that.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm
Colin?
good.
Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that one's done.
Make a motion to approve the 25,650 for additional fees for the Johnson School for completion.
And another second from Perna. Again, any other discussion, comments on this one, on Johnson? All in favor? Aye. Anybody else opposed? I'm assuming I don't hear you, you're saying aye. Okay, so that carries also. So Geraldine, are you just gonna have to redo the front page, or are there any other parts of it that have the dates that you need to redo?
No, I think that's it. And my boss caught that when I was reviewing this with him today too, so I knew about it. So I'll just change the date, but I'll send you the whole file. I'll send you the whole file. You can print it out, and
Okay.
I'll resend the whole file on both of them.
Okay. Because I saw it and I wasn't sure if I didn't want to ask you ahead of time, like in an email. I wasn't sure if it was a typo or whether it was an extension of that last extended contract. So,
My mistake. My mistake.
okay. So does that mean we're ready to go on to invoices?
We can do invoices, yeah.
We only have a couple. And then do you know, the one from STV, is that going to get redone or because this is now approved, or are you going to just do that with the things in it, or are you going to ask them about it?
I'll ask. It may be that accounting will want to just, yes, redo it. So we wouldn't consider that tonight anyway, since I didn't circulate them. But I'll see if they want to redo a total one instead of cutting it off at the previous.
Well, because it is for the month, but
right,
minuses the parts that aren't in there, and actually the one for was for $61.70.
I know. It's like, why do they bother?
Because it's the accounting, and it's their job to keep those things going.
I know.
All right, so we have Perkins Eastman and ST Special Testing Laboratories, STL. Row one.
Yes. So let's do Johnson School, Perkins Eastman, for their extended CA, Extended Construction Administration.
So I will make a motion that we approve the invoice from Perkins Eastman, invoice number 68962.07.0-3 for extended services, construction administration at Johnson School, month of May. Total $5,806.75.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a second from somebody, I'm not sure who.
Roy,
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Done. And next one,
Also at Johnson, we have the
site work.
additional site work.
Yep. So I make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68962.04.0-6 for site work at Johnson in the amount of $359.38.
Second,
We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Does that close that one out, or is that?
There's another about $350 left on that one. So,
Yeah, got it. Okay. Yep, I see that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
there'll be a little bit more this month.
That'll finish
And this
that.
is Rockwell Extended Construction Administration.
So I'll make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68961.06.0-3 for extended construction administration at Rockwell School for $1,908.
second that.
Got a second, and any questions? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, done. And then SPL,
STL, so at Johnson School, this is an invoice for concrete cylinder testing, and the reason it's still out here is that this concrete inspection in April at the front sidewalk apparently, well, it did not pass at the 28 days, so they held it for 56 days, and now we have the report and the pass on that concrete.
so the report's good?
Yes.
Good, all right. So I'll make a motion that we approve Special Testing Laboratories invoice number 35400 and for, we say Johnson School in the amount of $231.
Second,
Second, all in favor?
aye.
Aye, opposed, done.
And STL at Rockwell. This is for steel inspection that I believe, I'm fairly certain, is for the boiler room pipe supports. So,
And they're the ones that, they're inspecting the steel, but are they doing the calculations for, like, is it the right stuff to do? Does somebody else have to do that?
So they are not doing the calculations. They are looking at the implementation of the method and how they were welded versus, well, they ended up being screwed, I guess, versus welded. They're utilizing information, I believe, from DTC in
Okay.
evaluating what was done.
Got it. So I'll make a motion that we approve Special Testing Laboratories invoice number 35399. That's at Rockwell for $220.
Second that,
Got a second, all in favor?
aye.
Aye, opposed, done. So,
That's all.
is this
Wow,
a new record time?
that's a record.
It's a record, but we also have to,
No, your record is 8:05, so.
oh, it is, okay. You've got that written down somewhere, Jim?
Don't need to.
Is that?
I didn't need to write it down.
Oh, okay. Was that like our very first meeting, like 3 months ago or something?
Something like that, Nancy.
a special meeting where we only had one thing to discuss.
It's scar tissue.
Yeah, scar tissue, right. Does anybody have any either questions or comments or anything for Ken, Jim, Geraldine, or Joe Colada? The rest of you guys stay on. We have a few other things we have to deal with. Police
I'm
station.
good.
All right, so now, all right, before you go, let me just say quickly, because I said about someone asked about meetings in person. So last I heard, which was just yesterday, the state is supposed to be issuing guidance very soon to possibly put in place whatever needs to happen to have meetings starting July 1. So I think once the state gives out here, and then the town's got to put together what their plan is. So our first meeting in July may be in person, or it may not be. So we'll have to, let's see, that'll be, let's see, July 13 would be our next meeting.
Good.
Stay tuned. I know that as far as the meetings go, there was some back and forth about, do they have to be all in person or can they be hybrid? Meaning some people could be on either Zoom or a phone call or whatever, which we've done. Before we've had people call in because they weren't able to attend, so they could give a report or whatever. But I think the state has to look at, like, if you have the opportunity for Zoom or hybrid, if the public wants to attend, how does that happen for them? Can they call in and then Zoom in? So I think all that has to get sorted out. So hopefully we will know soon. I mean, there'll be some probably state announcements, but as far as what the town's going to require, we'll let you know. Hopefully we can just get in a big space and say hi again.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that for me, the school part and just in general for meetings, but hopefully we know in enough time to put an agenda out, because we need to put our agendas out early enough according to FOI and all those sorts of things. So hopefully we will know before that and let everybody know.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ken.
Good night,
See
everyone.
you next
Hello.
time.
All right, good night.
Take care.
All right, so we still have a quorum, we were the quorum. So I sent around a couple of emails on the police station, on the water test, my observations of the day, and then, not Perkins Eastman, Downs's response to that, which I just sent out yesterday. And then the response, or I sent it out today, the response I got from Downs saying, this is our plan moving forward. So just to recap, they stood there and sprayed. So the area that they had coated was 10 feet wide, and it went from the base all the way up to the flashing, the roof flashing. And they started low with the water, after some period of time, went up a little higher, and you could see the water just sheeting and running down. So it was really performing the way it was supposed to. And what we did was we had to check the inside. I was there, Paul Zakowski and Rick Creighton from the Board of Selectmen came in at they had a Board of Selectmen meeting. So Dion was there too, because she had to take minutes. They called the meeting to order. Chief Pugner, Lieutenant Durkin, and Lieutenant Libertini came in and out. And then a couple people from Downs, John Fraioli, who's one of their construction you've met him probably if you've been at some of the different meetings. His son was there. He was the water sprayer. Did you get paid to do this? And another fellow from Downs, Bruce, I can't remember Bruce's last name. We did check the inside, and luckily we had our first second selectman electrician there, helped us get some lights, like really bright lights in that space, because if you've been in there, you know how dark it is. It was bone dry. They started the water, it was sheeting down, it was obviously working. After 10 or more minutes, they just moved for a little bit. So they went back and forth between the coated area and the non-coated area. And within 5 minutes, the non-coated area had water just flooding in.
Wow.
That's where they started with it. It was coming, my observation was it was actually coming through the mortar joints. It didn't look like it was the actual block, but coming along the joints pretty quickly. And then, so that was an obvious, like going back and forth between that, you know, line they had painted where painted, not painted, painted, not painted. And then we had chosen to move down because we were on the back of the building. They coated the back of the building. Chose to move down a bunch of sections, control joint sections, almost to the end. And again, they started down low, started moving the water up, and within 5 minutes, it was coming through. So, and what Chief Pugner has observed in the past is if it's raining like it is today, just raining down, you don't get much coming in. But if it's really driving wind, that's when you start getting the infiltration. So we were pretty satisfied. And the way they had coated the area was, it was almost all the way, if you're in the back of the building, almost all the way to the right. So it's near the area where it attaches to the main part of the building. Because there's the whole big open firing range section, and then there's that smaller kind of ready room section.
Right.
There's another storage section. And you could see on the inside where there were water stains dripping there too. So, and they wanted to get, because in there, in the ready room area and the storage area, there's drop ceiling. And you could see how it had run down the wall. You know, they had moved some of the ceiling tiles. So they checked that too, and that there was nothing coming in there. So we thought, at first thought, why do that section? It made sense because you could see where water had come in different places this time. But at the very end, as we were checking, we noticed in the corner, so there's a block wall that creates that ready room, comes across, where that block wall came into the structure wall, the exterior wall. There was water at the bottom right there on both sides. We went from one room to the other and you could see it. So we were trying to check out the flashing that they had put in where the block comes out and there's a whole flashing detail. And then there's a channel which you don't see. You've got really bright light on the inside, which was created so that if water did come in, because it's kind of a space about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, with the flashing goes down in there, and it's like it's a channel. So we're wondering, and they're checking into this to see if the detail was done according to the specs, which they are saying right now that it is, if where the water came in, and this is just in that area where we went back and forth between the coated area and the non-coated area, whether it came in there and then went down the channel and then we could see it. So Downs is checking into whether that flashing, you can see it on the inside of the building and you can see it on the outside of the building. Two things they're checking into right now. Was that installed properly? Because we need to know that. And because we then at the very last, both Rich and I noticed that they painted over the weeps, those weep sections that they put in, and they painted over them. So then we questioned, do we need to seal the weeps because this is no longer a breathable wall, or do we need to leave the weeps open? So they're checking into that also. Their, as you saw in the email, their proposal is to just do the coating and then do another water test. Because how are we going to know if the water that did come in only came in that one uncoated section, then it went down the channel?
Yep.
Ended up. So I'm okay with that. I don't know if anybody else feels differently about it. I told them we'd discuss it tonight and get back to them. Thoughts?
Sounds feasible to me from what I've read, from what I saw.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
As
think,
long as they clean off all the dust and debris that's on the block before they seal it, I think from what you're saying, it sounds like it's going to be good.
yeah, they did in that section. I know they didn't power wash it. I think they did more of a dry, stiff brushing, kind of getting all the loose stuff off before they did the primer and then the 2 finish coats.
Did it change the color of the block much?
Yeah, yeah. It's actually not changed terribly. I mean, you can see the difference looking at it, but it's kind of a more tannish color. It's not too bad. And the policeman, you know, I think Chief Bugner and a few others, they picked it out. So, you know, they got to be good with it.
Okay.
And one thing,
How
one thing,
often will we have to do it?
what's that, John?
How often will we have to redo it?
They said it's supposed to be 10 years or more. So,
35 years, John.
but I think the specs say 10. So,
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good product. I would think we should easily get 10 years off of it.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, Nancy, I would suspect that, you know, my recommendation would probably be to make sure those weeps are open because,
Yeah, okay.
you know, it's really, the weeps are made for the water that gets in back of it for it to come out. So,
Right, and then it freezes and then it cracks.
right. It's not made for the water getting driven into it. It's made for the
Right.
water out if it's in there.
Right,
Right.
then you start popping joints.
Right, because it can go down through the different channels left open and then back out, which I think is part of that channel that's left along where the floor and the block come together, floor and the structure block come together. That's part of that too, to be able to kind of let it breathe out and get out.
Yeah.
I think I
They
suggested,
might just have to go along with a drill later and just, you know, open it up.
yeah. Well, I think that it was just that short section because the weeps are only every so many that they're spaced a certain distance apart. So I
Right.
think-
Exactly.
and then when they start to paint them, if they just put some tape over it,
Yep.
painting and then take the tape off, I think they should be good with the weeps.
Yeah.
And the other suggestion I made when they're purchasing the material is to buy an extra, whatever they think. So it comes in 5-gallon buckets. Buy an extra bucket or maybe 2, because we're going to need it once the range is finished and we have to patch up that one section
Right.
where the forklift is going to come in and then the area around the ductwork. So that's going to
Great.
get patched in. That's going to have to get sealed also. So let's not wait to purchase the stuff. Let's purchase it now. So it's all from the same dye lot, I would think.
Good idea.
So silly
Well-
question, when they finish the range inside, and know that we're not getting involved in it, will they have access to that? What do they plan on doing to those walls? Like, how would they know if, you know, it's great, we're finishing, we're sealing the block and everything, right? Say that stuff starts to break down after 7 years and the water starts weeping through, are they gonna be able to see it? What do they plan to do to the interior? Fur it out and sheet rock it, are they?
I don't know if it's going to get sheetrocked. I think in maybe that ready room area it might be, or might just get painted because it's block wall. But in the itself, I think the walls have some sort of specific finish that's part of the plan of the range. So I don't think it gets furred out and sheetrocked.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, there's no interior finishing of the range other than paint.
So-
Yeah, that's my recollection as well.
Yeah, the back.
How would you
back
know you
side-
had how would you know you had a problem if something failed, being that we've had so many problems?
Mhm.
You know, like in a normal office building, you would sheet rock, you would fur it out, you would sheet rock it, and you're never gonna see that spot again.
Right, right.
What are we doing to the inside? Does anybody know? You know, are they putting rubber panels on the block as part of the range or?
No, it's
It
the
would
only,
be
the only backing, John, is where the bullet trap is in the back.
In the very back. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's
there's no sound attenuation or anything going up on the walls. It's going on hanging from the ceiling.
Right, I think it is on the ceiling. That's the heavy stuff they need to
Yeah.
lift
Right.
with the forklift. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everything else, there's nothing on the walls that I remember them telling us.
Oh, good. Okay.
Which is a good thing, John, to your point.
Yeah.
Right, because we will do a water test once it's all coated and done and everything. So that's right now, but like John said, what do we do in 5, 8, 12, whatever years when, you know, hopefully the stuff doesn't peel or anything like that, but if the paint coating starts to break down, how do we know infiltration is or isn't happening? And I think you'd be able to see it if the walls aren't getting finished. They may get painted, like you said, they may get something, but I don't think there's any furring and sheetrock going on.
Well, 8, 10, 12 years, I hope to be living in Florida, so.
We'll all be done and younger people will be.
Carolina, come on.
It will be John Perna and Kathy Galbus on the committee staff.
Yeah, you're the young ones. You guys can take over.
There you go.
Not me.
So that's it on the police station. So I'll let Downs know that, you know, we're in agreement of getting that coating completed, and then hopefully let us know when the next water test is going to happen. So if anybody wants to attend, they can.
Yeah, that's really good news, Nancy. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody was pleased. Everybody was very pleased.
It
Good.
took forever to get there, but at least we're getting there.
Yeah, I know. And then the municipal center renovation, had an email from Matt Knickerbocker again asking for, well, I think they're still looking, it sounds like they're still looking into grant funding that could be available to do some of that. And to me, it seemed like just doing the bathroom parts might not be as attractive to get grant money as doing the locker room parts, since that's part of the, you know, shelter and all that. So he then was specifically asking, what about the finished plans for the locker room? So if you remember, David, you wouldn't because you weren't part of it, but the original plans were to just do the locker rooms, that whole locker room area. So kind of like just that whole area near the gym, creating more bathrooms for Park and Rec to use during outdoor activities, etc. And before we actually were, it was like over $1 million. So we knew we were probably going to have to go to referendum, like a 1.2, I think is remembering for that whole part. We kind of did while we're at it, why don't we do that? Why do we just do the floor in that area? Why don't we extend it into the GP room lobby? And into, let's not spend that much money right now on the locker rooms. Let's just do the GP room lobby, which gave bathrooms enough to use for outdoor activities for Park and Rec. So we didn't have to worry about the locker room. Now he's the whole thing, but we never finished construction drawings for the locker room, I don't think. We just had to.
You're correct, Nancy, because the scope changed at that point.
Right.
It was changed just to the entryway because
Yes.
that's what the direction was.
Right, so we had complete construction drawings, construction documents, plans, specifications, everything for the GP room lobby. But for the locker room area, we only still have schematics. I explained that. And he had put Eileen Earl and a couple of, maybe you were on it, Roy, somebody or John, I can't remember, on the email. And Eileen is away and she said, I have a lot of that. He was looking for, I think, paper plans, which we never printed any. I think Eileen may have printed one copy to have. So she said, I'm away. When I come back, I'll get the paper plans. We'll look at them. So you guys didn't meet with Peter Eckert, right?
No.
Because the other thing that Matt said was that he had Eileen looking into contacting Peter and ask him about cost estimates. And I said, he's not going to give you a cost estimate. But I was like, so does that mean we're not supposed to do anything more with it as a commission, or? So, like I said, I think it's going to be more attractive as far as grant funding if they include the whole locker room. Do you remember, I think John, maybe John Perna and Roy, where did we all, some of you, we all went over there with Peter Eckert and looked at it, and we were kind of redoing that area, adding more storage, taking some of the bathrooms out because we didn't need as many bathrooms now that we had the new bathrooms with the GP room lobby, and creating more storage space in there for them. Still having the showers done and changing rooms and a couple of bathrooms, but not as many bathrooms. So what I think it made, as I remember, because we had a couple of phases, or not phases, but scheme A, scheme B, like here's a whole lot of work, here's less work. So that there's not as much moving walls around and creating new doorways and all that.
You know, and it was also a time and point where Peter, an architect, I mean, he wanted to put skylights in.
Yeah.
We said no to that.
They said,
Yeah, we had,
We
you don't want to
scoped
start
it,
cutting the roofs.
yeah, we
Yeah.
scoped it back significantly
Yeah.
on the project. And I actually thought that we had some pretty good ideas at that time as far as scoping it back. And
Yes.
then the whole scope changed to just doing the front,
Right.
the front
Right.
entryway. But
right,
I
we
think, yeah, I think Peter
I'm
still has
willing to
that,
sit down.
yeah. But
He
Peter
took
probably
up-
has the revised plans, you
yeah,
know, the ones that he came back. You know, I don't know if he ever finally drew them back up, because I remember going through it
I don't
with
think he
them.
did.
What's that?
so they're not construction, I know they're not construction drawings. I was looking at them the other day. I don't even know if I can find them quickly, but there were schematics that basically, here's an idea.
Yeah,
It was kind of like, here's an idea for this and here's an idea for that, and not finding them quickly, so I won't put them up. I can email them out.
Well, you know, I'd be willing to sit down and with whoever again and meet with Peter as a subcommittee and
Yeah.
start the process again to see where we're at and where we need to go. And then, you know, if they expect Peter to actually come up with construction drawings, somebody's got to come up with cost. I mean, they
Right,
pay for
right.
that.
Because we may still owe him a little bit of money because we asked him to do a few things kind of a year and a half ago, and he did it just, spent a few hours, and, we probably owe him some stuff for that. But yes, if they're looking at doing construction drawings, documents, specifications and everything for the locker room section, it takes some time. And that's going to take some money to pay him to do that. And if that's part of the grant, that'd be great. But we may have to do it first to come up with construction drawings to kind of have a shovel-ready project,
right.
apply for the grant. So I'm gonna,
I said, I'll be willing to work on that again.
yeah, okay. I'll let Matt know that we talked about it at the meeting and ask for some more direction as to how we should be involved and
Yeah,
how we
I
need to get things done.
think that'd be good, but, I do think that, this has been kicked down the road probably far enough. And I think, it seems like there's probably some pressure with Matt trying to get this moving again. So,
Yeah.
I think I kind of hear him. And, I think it'd be a good thing, that the whole scope has changed again, with COVID and where it is and the funding. So now it maybe is a good opportunity for us to look at the whole thing again.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the town is getting like 7 million.
Yeah.
And
So
this being part of a renovation for emergency shelter would probably,
fulfill, exactly, John. So I can understand why there's a change of directions again. So it looks like we'll just have to, reactivate ourselves per se to look at the whole project.
Right. So John, you heard or that we're possibly getting, like the town is getting 17 million or 7
seven.
for what? Anything or?
That, I think they're waiting for that to get spelled out exactly what it
Got
can be used on.
Got it. Okay.
But I guess they were notified it's like 7.6 million. And certain things they can use it for, and certain things they can't use it for.
Got it. Got it.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll check back with Matt and find out, I mean, obviously, like I said, having,
Roy, you want to work on this again or?
Yeah, I'll gladly work on it. Next week's not so good. I'm gonna be out of town, so.
Yeah, and next week's not good for me either, so.
Yeah, so, but, I'll be back the following.
Nancy, if we can get anything that Eileen or drawings that we have, we could probably sit down in, Roy's office one afternoon and just to
Right.
see where we're at and where we want to go, and then we can find out what more, Kathy, your friend's back. Find out what more we need from Peter to actually progress. And we
Right.
just maybe keep working with Matt and find out how far he wants to go with this.
right. 'Cause I know some of the stuff that came up when we were kind of sectioning off the GP room lobby was the plumbing and sprinklers and all that, because if you did the whole thing, it was easier
Yeah,
to put all that together, but to isolate, you were still gonna have to run the sprinklers through that area to get them to where we needed them.
And,
Yeah.
and we also did, underneath there, remember we did the asbestos
yeah.
testing, and that was all done, so that's a big nut that's all taken care of.
Yeah, a lot of and the other, I think upstairs, we did some testing in the GP room lobby.
Right.
We abated the stuff in the locker room too,
Yes.
Correct.
3 summers ago, which was a pretty small job luckily for us.
Hey, John, do you think it's worthwhile to, you know, talk to Peter at the same time and say, maybe we should just have an informal and, you know,
Well-
ask Peter, you know, where he is and just, you
Well,
know,
how
see.
about if we just sit down first and look at what he's done?
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
then-
fine. I
Then
don't
go
even-
back to him and say, hey, you know, this is how we want to proceed.
Yeah,
Fine.
What's it gonna cost?
yeah. And I'll find out too, like if Eileen's got paper copies, maybe you could all sit down and look at it. Either at the municipal center, because it's easier to get in and out of there now too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All
That's
right.
good.
But I'll send, I know that I found a couple of, I think it was from July 2019 was the last time we looked at some plans, so to speak. Huh.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, no.
So, well, that was just the GP room. Okay. So Kathy, can you make me
If you can.
the co-host? How do I, let me get back here. And then now I have to remember how to do screen sharing. Big. Remind me how to do, oh, here it is, down there.
Bottom middle, green.
And there's scheme A.
Yeah.
So,
Bring
know,
back
that-
memories.
yeah, that green area is the phase, what he called phase 1, the GP room lobby.
Yeah,
And then what he called phase 2 is the whole locker room area. And that might be, so that scheme A was kind of the way we had originally talked about it. Then let me see if I can get scheme B up. Scheme B. There's scheme B. So again, in green, the GP room lobby, and in purple, scheme B, and it sort of changes a little bit the way, because they had cut,
yeah, the entries were different.
yeah, they had cut in that, this is the original one, actually.
Is that right? Yeah.
Those hallways to get into the locker bathrooms, and then there were going to be new hallways having to be built and some storage areas, et cetera. So, and I can email these out to everyone.
Do we have these in the large drawing size?
I don't know. I would have to look and see if I still have them somewhere. They probably were either ledger size or legal size on a piece of paper. And I might still have them. I'm not sure. I'll look. And I can try to print it if I go to the municipal center. To do it.
Yeah, I could print it for you, Nancy. If you can get me the files, I can.
Yeah, I don't- Yeah, I don't need to print it. And if you guys want to look at it on paper, I'm pretty sure we had big copies, but we left Eileen. Eileen had, I think, pretty sure Eileen kept all that. So like I said, I'll email these out. So I'm going to stop sharing. And thank you.
If you can find out if Eileen has a big one, if not, maybe then, like I said, if you can send it to Roy,
Right.
he can print it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could print
It's so much easier to look at it that way and work off it.
a little bit. Yep.
So let me check in with Matt and with Eileen to find out, like, you know, what are the next steps, and if John
Yeah.
and Roy want to be a part of getting together with Peter and whoever, you know, Eileen and whoever else, start looking at that. And,
Good.
you know, the only area of the GP room lobby that would need to get abated is cutting in that little upper, that area where Peter has designed it to be opened up to the upstairs. And that's, that ceiling, well, that ceiling might need to get abated anyways, because of the glue daubs might have something in it. I can't remember from the.
I think they came, well, the dots in the locker room came back clean.
Right, but I'm talking about the GP room lobby,
Yeah, I don't know.
daubs there. And then there's lead paint on the baseboard, big deal. But there's, I think, asbestos flooring in that upstairs area. And if
That
that's,
paint's overrated.
I think that raise the ceiling thing might be, you know, go the way of the clear stories that he wanted to put in, but we'll see. It looks nice. It looks nice, so. All right, so I'll keep you posted. I'll send those out, just the schemes that I just showed, so everybody sees it. But then there's, working further on it. We'll see what's the next steps that Matt wants us to take.
Okay, good.
Okay, anything else? Have anybody have anything else? Anything else? Anything else?
Our next meeting is what, July 13th, is it?
13th, I think I said. And John Perna, I appreciate your being able to be on here, since we thought that Bob Germanero was going to be able to join us because graduation got moved, but he couldn't. So yeah, July 13th.
Okay.
Menti called me and threatened me, so I had to get on.
Who did?
Menti did.
Oh, yeah, blame me. Yeah.
The guy's on.
He was gonna take away your wine and your super set.
Yeah, he came down with his pinky ring on. He says, "You better pull for me."
Okay, I make a motion, we adjourn.
That's your job.
I second it.
There you go.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Not everybody.
Good.
Bye, Kathy. Bye-bye.
Kathy, I'll bring you invoices sometime soon.